Hi, YouTube.
Hi, YouTube. Hello, you.
All right. See our...
We know a lot of the Vita.
Well, I'll have it printed in English.
It's in Spanish.
But it's but look, you've got to look at the diagram. The diagram is what I want to show you. Yeah.
He ate too
Did
many.
you draw that?
I'll print. Yeah, of course I did. Well, no, I didn't.
I saw that on your chalkboard one time.
Yeah,
except that wasn't a sun. That was a tree.
It is.
He ate too many tacos.
It is on there. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's why he's having a heart attack.
He did eat too many tacos. Continuing with our lessons.
The one crucifixion.
The crucified life.
Thank you, Zion. The crucified life. All right.
Something about crucifixion.
I've got a question, and because I listened so many times to the past lesson, and I recorded it probably over 12 times trying to get a decent recording off of it. So I've got a question, and let's see if this one's for Jaden, okay? But then you guys hold it, yeah. Well, I can't just throw this out there at him. So, do you remember, Naomi, when I had you read a definition for me concerning sinned?
Yeah.
Do you remember anything about the definition?
Missing the mark. Missing
the mark. Perfect. And the example they had was like throwing a spear at a target, kind of. All right, perfect. Okay. With that background, Jaden, okay, now you guys, because you guys were here last lesson, so you hold off. With that background, what was the mark in the Garden of Eden? And I know it's a loaded question because there's a whole lot of background that we've covered that you haven't gotten yet. No, hold on. Think about it. What was the mark? Okay. And I'll give you some hints. There were two main trees in that garden. Okay? Two main trees that God talked about. Well, that's declared in the scriptures. Any idea? Any thought? Yeah.
Isn't it? I know it's a two tree.
Well, there was the tree of
good
and
bad.
Evil. Yeah, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. There was also the tree of
No good, evil, bad.
Life. The tree of life was also in the midst of in the garden. Okay, so concerning those two trees, and concerning that that definition of sin that we looked at from Romans, that basically the definition is missing the mark, basically missing the bullseye, like taking a spear, throwing it at a bullseye and totally missing it because the bullseye is over here. Yeah, that's how we are. All right. What was the mark, the bullseye, in the Garden of Eden?
Tree of life.
Yes. Now, I'm so thankful that you guys said this, and I didn't catch it. And Lord willing, as soon as we get this last Sunday's video up there, please, if you guys caught this, well, you're not going to know. Leave a comment on it. But I didn't catch it during the lesson, but it was towards the end of the lesson because it was right there at the top of my notes and like on the top part of the title of my notes. So I didn't catch my question, but I did ask, what was the mark in the Garden of Eden? And Zion started by saying, to not eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And then Naomi started saying to not, and then she kind of paused there. And then I said something like, oh, you guys, I said something like that. And I didn't catch it. And I'm thankful that you said that because, and here's the thing. when not when, by default. Do you guys know what by default means? Automatically. Like my default language is English, but I also speak Spanish and I also speak other languages. By default, I speak English, okay? By default, what comes natural to us is everything and anything, get this, other than Christ. Always. Always. And that's normal. That's normal for man. Remember in lessons back, in lessons past, it requires a miracle of God for our heart to consider Jesus his son. It does. It always does. It always does. It requires a miracle of God. Jesus is the very last thing. Well, he's never what we think of at all, ever. Remember how I told you? Well, I don't know if I told you this, but I woke up this morning, and I think I've shared something like this in a previous lesson. I woke up this morning, and I don't know about you all's minds, but my mind is my carnal mind, which is no different than your carnal mind, which is no different than your natural mind, the mind of the first man, Adam. Mine is like a merry-go-round. It's like you ever get on a merry-go-round and push it, and round and round and round it goes, and where it stops, nobody knows. That's kind of how my mind is. So I woke up this morning and my mind kind of wanted to do that. That's what it does naturally, normally. And I thought, and I was kind of like talking to the Lord, and I was like, Lord, this is just my mind. This is my mind. And that's chaos. I mean, it's like riding a roller coaster and everything's just passing by you like, whoo, whoo, whoo. And some people love the thrill of the ride. Yeah, I don't, I get sick. All right. And I was just telling the Lord, this is my mind. This is the mind of Adam. And it just runs amok. I can do nothing about it. And I don't know how it came about, but somehow I was, I guess, asking that my heart would be submitted to the mind of Christ, that my heart would come under the rule and reign of the mind of Christ. Now, what I mean by that is this. King Solomon, the risen son, right? He's the risen son. He has a kingdom. Everything found in his kingdom is his. All the subjects, everybody, all the people in King Solomon's kingdom, he is their king. But what if there's some in the kingdom who don't acknowledge his kingship or don't know that he's king? Does that change the fact, the truth, the reality that Solomon is their king? Yes or no?
No.
No. Thank you. Look at that. Your voice is faster than your actions. No, it doesn't change anything a bit. For the one who's born again, new birth is a miracle of God. Remember our previous lesson. Our condition, our state of being is by birth. Whether we were born in the flesh, born of Adam, or by a miracle of God, we are now born again. New birth. Before the ruler, the reign, was Pharaoh, death, and darkness. Once the soul is born again, there is a new rule and reign. Life and light. The kingdom of Solomon is described in this way. Well, in several ways, but in this way in particular, by righteousness, wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Solomon, the wisest man of all the earth. People would come to hear his wisdom. Okay? For the one who's born again, we have been brought into the kingdom of the Son of his love. God did this. It's like out from one into another. The question is, where is our heart? Where's our heart? Is our heart where we are, or is our heart where we were? in times past. And this is for those who are born again. This is for those who are born again. If you're not born again, you're still stuck in Egypt. Sorry, there's no escape. You must be born again. All right, so going on with that. But I said, I woke up this morning and it was just really neat. The Lord just started speaking to my heart and just things were coming to remembrance, and I just started jotting them down. This is this page of the notes for today. That's probably maybe the only thing we get covered, but it's good. Okay, I heard that. That's going to be really loud. Yes, I know. Oh, okay. All right, so I'll just go ahead and read some of the notes. What was the mark in the Garden of Eden? All right. The religious mind, the natural mind says to not eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, the tree of death. So this is what, as believers, this is what I experienced, what probably many believers are experiencing. So what do we do with that? We fast. Because our mind says, okay, and what I mean by fast is this, our mind says, okay, I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to refrain from doing that. But this is okay. But I'm going to keep from doing that. And basically, it's anything that distracts us from Christ, or what we would think that would distract, that would grab our attention. But see, with that, that's all that man can do. I'll give an example. I'm not going to mess with this anymore because it's distracting me. Get this, it's distracting me from the lesson. And that's just an example. I'm going to do this over here. This is not as distracting. What did I do? Anybody with my example? It could be anything. What I did was take my attention from one thing, place it upon another thing that I think is not as bad as that. But, get this, but the whole entire time, my heart has yet to turn unto the mark, unto the bullseye, unto the goal, unto Christ. I'm occupied with this over here, right? This that pertains to me, what I do, what I don't do. And it requires a miracle of God to turn and be occupied with the Son. But get this, that's exactly what the Lord wants to do. And believe it or not, but Christ is so much greater than this that we're occupied with, and we don't believe it and we don't think it until God the Father actually turns our heart to Him. It's kind of like what I was saying. I can't remember if I shared it during the lesson. I know I might have been talking about it. But before I was born again, I really had no desire to go to a church service whatsoever. I really didn't. I didn't care for it. Not when I was a kid, not when I was in, high school, and not when I was in college. Had no desire. I was like, what am I going to do there? Why do I even have to go? And then it was always oh man, they're making me go. I have to wake up. It's like drag my feet. Okay, I'm going. And that's normal. There's no desire there of Christ whatsoever. But when I was born again at the age of 20, it was just something radical that God had done in my heart. I didn't fully understand the whole extent of it, but I wanted to be where I thought I could find the Lord. After new birth, I wanted to be with the people of God. I wanted to be in the church services. Get this, I would not only go on Sundays, but we would meet on Wednesdays. We would meet other days and have services on other days. And it was like, He is what it is all about. And only God can do that in our heart. Man can't. Man can't. Remember from previous lessons, there is nothing of Him that we desire. I think it says it in Isaiah. Nothing. We don't even consider the tree of life. We don't. We consider the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, which God says, look, it's death. But that's what we consider. We consider all this stuff. And so the mark, the goal, the prize himself in the Garden of Eden, was not, this is the way I say this, was not to not eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, the tree of death. But it has always been to eat of the tree of life. We hear this, don't do this, but do this over here. What does this make you think of, this next thing that I'm going to say? Thou shalt not, thou shalt. What does it make you think of?
Rules.
Rules? Yes, rules? Anything?
Commandments.
Yes. Commandments. Thou shalt not, thou shalt. What it makes us think of is rules. A list of do's and don'ts. Yeah, that's Diego and that's loud. I know that. A list of do's and don'ts. The Ten Commandments. That's even louder too because it's closer to the bike. Ah. It's okay, Diego.
That's going to be loud too.
You find those? Yes, it will be louder. Exodus chapter 20. You find the quote unquote, the 10 Commandments, the 10 words in Exodus chapter 20. Thou shalt not. Do this, don't do that. It's like the what? Yeah, no, hopefully not. The list of, and we look at it as a list of do's and don'ts. The way we should act, the way we should not act, right? Right? Kind of like a code of conduct, right? But what we do not hear is the following. Not I, but Christ. Because with a list of quote unquote do's and don'ts, with the commandments, when we hear that, we're applying it to ourselves. Me, I, what I should do, what I should not do, what we should do, what we should not do. Right? But what we don't hear is not I, but Christ. Remember, the scriptures, what do we find? And we should hopefully remember this and know this. What should we find in the scriptures? Or what did God intend us to find in the scriptures? Anybody?
Jesus.
Yes. Specifically, the testimony of Jesus. So we find life being declared. In the scriptures are hidden the testimony of Christ. So we find life being declared. We find righteousness being declared. We find all the terms being declared. All the terms being declared, the testimony that actually declares a person himself. All right? The issue has always been and forever will be Christ himself, a person. Always. Back to the Garden of Eden. The issue was never about not eating. The issue was about eating. Remember? Let's see if I can find it and not take that much time. I think I could be wrong. Genesis chapter 1. Let's eat. I'll just put that in eat. Do a search with eat. The Lord God commanded the man, saying, from any tree of the garden you may freely eat. From the get-go, the issue was about eating. The issue was not eating, but the issue was eating. That's Genesis chapter 2, verse 16. The Lord God commanded the man, saying, from any tree of the garden you may freely eat, with the hope and the desire that they would eat from the tree of life. Verse 17, the very next verse, then comes, but from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat. So eat, it's like God saying from the very beginning, eat from any tree with the hope, with the desire, with the purpose for which he created us, to eat of the tree of life. And just to make it clear, the next verse he says, but don't eat of this tree over here. And then we get caught up with the over here. We don't get caught up with the tree of life. Like I said, it requires a miracle of God to draw our attention and place it upon Christ himself. It does. It always does. Okay. Only the Father, by his Spirit, can do the following: open our eyes to see, unstop our ears so that we can truly hear, and cause our heart to understand. Cause us to understand with our heart, that we may, look at this, that we may turn and be healed. Healed from what? Well, for the person who's not born again, healed from the condition of death. Now, healed and the condition of life is present. For the born again believer, healed from their heart being submitted unto ignorance, darkness, to being submitted unto light, the light of life. And that phrase right there, that we may turn and be healed. Oh, look at this. Look, I've got it. Just what I said. Look at this very next statement. See that? I'm going to read the very next statement under this red part right here. It's basically what I just said. That we may turn and be healed from death to life, new birth, from the mind of Adam to the mind of Christ, the knowledge of new birth. And that is actually from Matthew 13, or excuse me, yes, Matthew chapter 13, verse 15 through 15. That makes no sense. All right, Matthew chapter 13. Let's start with verse 15 and see if I actually got the right verse. Oh, yeah, this was Jesus speaking after he spoke a couple of parables, one of which you were beginning to read. Therefore I speak to them in parables. The disciples who were drawn to Jesus, who were close to Jesus, who had come to Jesus, who had come to a person, they asked him, so why are you speaking to them in parables? You know, this is Jesus' response. Therefore I speak to them in parables, because while seeing, they do not see. While hearing, they do not hear, nor do they understand. In their case, the prophecy of Isaiah is being fulfilled, which says, you will keep on hearing, but will not understand. You will keep on seeing, but will not perceive. For the heart of this people has become dull. With their ears, they scarcely hear, and they have closed their eyes. Otherwise, they would see with their eyes, hear with their ears, and understand with their heart, and turn, and I would heal them. I know it is. Sorry, guys. It's just Diego. But that's a distraction, right? Yeah, that we can get caught up with.
It's
No. So.
At school, we had a Baptist come and we prayed and everything. But the cheerleaders started walking out there, and all while she's glanced over there to see what's happening, he was like, "Don't pay attention. That's when he's trying to get y'all away from the Lord." Wait, no, that's the wrong. Wait, no, did I say that right?
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, but see, that's it. This world, this natural world, is full of chaos. It's full of treats and full of chaos. Things that we want, things that we don't want. You know, and it requires a miracle of God for a heart to turn, get this out from what's bound to this world, out from, for a believer, what is found in the wilderness of ignorance, to turn unto Christ. That requires a miracle of God. I think we covered it in a previous lesson, and I might have titled it this, Navigating the Wilderness. Do you guys kind of remember that? Navigating the wilderness? It is not about navigating the wilderness. It's about our heart actually turning unto the Lord, which requires a miracle of God. But when this miracle happens in our heart, you won't be the same. You won't walk the same. It is literally like a new world. a new world to live in, to walk in, and to be in. Okay.
Yeah, there's a song about that. It's like in a little like thing. It says you won't talk the same, want the same, think the same.
Yeah. And that happens the moment of new birth and should continue in our hearts. Thinking differently, walking differently, being differently. Anyway, and it all has to do with Christ. So I think everyone's starting to come back, and we probably had a short lesson, but that's okay. It's kind of like what the Lord put on my heart this morning. So I'm not going to ask for any questions, answers, or comments. If you do have them,
They shouldn't.
if you do have them, oh, that was loud. If you do have them, yeah, if you do have a question and or comment, post it in the comments section, and we'll see if we can cover it next time. Lord bless.
We're the youth group.
That's all for now.
Amen. Bye, YouTube.
Bye, YouTube.